Hello, everybody. Philip here, and we are live. For those watching the replay, hello. And the purpose of this presentation here is for me to give you guys a little overview of what I'm doing, and also to show you, to work with you. Okay. And I'm also testing my new laptop. I'm testing my new sort of travel screen for my new venture around the world. And this here is a thing I want to do because I want to have a session like this every once in a while where you guys can work with me along your journey. So you guys can run this here in the background of your computer. And if you have any questions that have cropped up during the day, you can ask me. So if you have any questions about your business, about anything really, you can ask away in the comments there, and I can answer it. While I'm doing that, or while you're doing that, then I will be doing my thing here. I've got a list of things I want to talk about and cover. And right now, I'm sure most of you guys are probably aware of my uprooting and traveling around the world. I'm becoming a digital nomad. So right now, obviously, as you can see, everything's empty behind me. My flat is empty. I'm leaving in about 3 or 4 days' time. I'm flying off to Bulgaria. And so right now, for me, I'm very busy just planning that, booking hotels and booking condos and booking flights and so on, and all kinds of other stuff. And also I wanted to do a live here because it's been a while since I've done a live, and I'm out of practice. And also I'm using something called StreamYard, which I've not really used before. So I'm just having some fun with that as well. Okay. So what I'll do here in a minute, guys, is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick, and I'll talk you through a few things that I'm doing. So I'll talk you through where I'm going. I'll talk you through my new secondary screen here as well, so you know what I'm doing. I'm going to be working on some new slides as well for a new course I'm creating. I'm releasing in a few days, in a few weeks. And I can talk you through the process, what I'm doing, and so on and so forth. And you guys can ask any questions that you may have. But yeah, so if you're watching replay, then obviously hello and welcome. And if you have any questions right now, guys, before I start, then fire away inside the chat. You can ask any questions right now if you want. Hey Suzanne, hey Ken, Gary, how you guys doing? So say hello in chat, and if you have any questions right now from the get-go, please feel free to fire away. And also, you can tell me what you're working on. Right? What are you working on right now? Obviously, you're all in different places around the world, but I know all of you are, trying to build a business of some kind. Hey, Michael, how you doing? And so yeah, so if you are working on something, then share that inside the group as well, because everyone can. You guys can also learn from each other, right? And also, I think it's often quite reassuring for people to know that you're not alone. Okay, because beginners often get trapped in their own little box of misery in your own life, and they forget that everyone has the same process. So if you want to know what the secret is to in terms of what I do all day, I literally just sit here like this, and I tap 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 tap, click 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 click, drag, drop, click click click, cup of tea, right? That's really it. Okay, there's no magical thing. I haven't got a team around me rushing around with papers and beeping noises, right? It's just me on my computer tapping away. Okay, and so don't forget that when you're sitting at home alone and you are struggling, then don't forget that everyone else is sitting at home doing the same thing. Everyone is at home sitting, looking at the screen, overthinking, overanalyzing, going down the wrong path, retracting, pushing forward, retracting, pushing forward, and so on. Okay, so that, and also that's kind of the point of this call here as well, or this recording, or this live feed, is for you to have that kind of reassurance on a more consistent basis. Okay, because everyone has the same kind of problem. So Ken asks, how did you pick Bulgaria of all places? Well, actually, I've already been to places like Slovakia. I've been to Lithuania. I've been to Latvia. I've been to Estonia, and I really like Eastern Europe. And in terms of Bulgaria, that's come up a lot because when I've met a lot of marketers in the last few years, And many of them mention Bulgaria specifically, certain villages and so on, because it's very affordable. Properties and stuff are very cheap. Taxes are very, very, very reasonable. I think, I'm meeting some accountants when I fly over there. And as far as I can tell, it's just it's just 10% corporation tax and so on. So it's very reasonable. And so Bulgaria is. I'm going there to research, right? I'm going there when I land. The first thing I'm doing is I'm meeting 3 or 4 different accountants to see what they say. Also, because I need to know who I can trust, because some people, they do try and pull the wool over your eyes, and they try and charge you $1,000 an hour to do something that is free, right? But I just want to find out exactly what the options are. Right, so I'm going there because ultimately Google can help you so much, but unfortunately there's so much information on Google that is simply wrong or misrepresented. Whereas if I go there in person and speak to someone in person, face to face, then I will be much more able to sort of discern what is real and what's not. Okay. So that's the main reason why I'm doing that. Also, Ken, it's just purely on a practical basis, because if I show you the map here real quick, hang on one second. So also it's purely on a practical level, because I'm over here. I don't know if you can see my screen here, my mouse. I'm over here in the UK, and Bulgaria is here. Okay, so and it's on the way over to Asia. So for me, it just makes sense to stop off there, because I've been wanting to do it for a while, and Bulgaria is so it's on my radar. So the first stop for me, is Sofia, the capital right here, and this is obviously where things kind of you can get quite it gets quite overwhelming, because when I actually go in here, if I search here for accountants, right? And there are lots and lots and lots of accountants. Again, who do you trust? How who they are? You go to their websites. The websites are generally pretty bad. They're quite hard to navigate and so on, because they're in different language. You translate it with the English thing, and then they're not quite perfect. So obviously that takes time to research and look at and so on. Same with accommodation and so on and so forth here. But anyway, it is fun, because it is all part of the journey. But long story short, I'm going to Bulgaria first because it's been on my radar for a while. So I'm flying from here, the UK. See where that little love heart is? That's where I am right now. And then I'm flying here. Then I'm flying to Dubai, which is down here. And then from Dubai, I'm flying over to Kuala Lumpur, which is way down here. So I'll be in Kuala Lumpur for about 3 or 4 months. Or about 2 months, and then after that, I'm going to Thailand as well. I'm meeting another marketer in Thailand in Chiang Mai, and then also in Bangkok. So I'm meeting 2 or 3 different marketers there over the next few months to have a chat and to just see if we can work together and just network really. So yeah. And Gary asks, so you got a plan for how long you will be in Bulgaria? Meaning, how long do you think you'll know or not this place to be? So yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Yeah, I won't know. So I'll be in Bulgaria for a month, and I'll use that time just to get a feel for a place and speak to the accountants and so on. Because if I can set up a company in Bulgaria without being there, right, then obviously I'll do that. So I'll go there, speak to people, meet people. I'm also going to be speaking to some real estate agents to find out about properties. Can a foreigner buy there? What's the process? What are the taxes and so on and so forth, right? Because that means that when I leave and go to Asia, I can then continue the process there. I will continue the process while I'm there. But the thing is, I'm also going to meet accountants in Dubai. I'm also going to meet accountants in Malaysia, right? So I'm not in a hurry to sort of get things done right away, because that's part of the traveling, right? And yeah. Ken Forgara says, finished out on my first course. Good man, good stuff. Recording the video soon. Good. Suzanne says, make room for me in a suitcase. I've got a backpack. I've got one tiny little backpack and one little laptop bag. That's it. It's actually really, really hard. It's surprisingly difficult to to pack your entire life down to just have one little backpack. But there you go. Kurt says, when can we log into the course? So the new course I'm creating will be available in segments over the next few weeks. You can find it inside Tao. If you are a premium member paying the monthly fees, you can find it inside the courses tab. Okay, but Kurt, I'll email out about that. Okay, so you'll know exactly where to find it. Hey Peter, how you doing? Alea, Sabrina, how you doing? Good to have you here. Ken says, I would have thought that a country with a territorial tax system would have been much better to have the business. Yeah, Ken, that's part of the process. I'm going around to find out where is best, because there's so many, right? There are many options. Greece is also an option. You also have Bulgaria, also places like Estonia, basically Ireland, right? There are many places. You have Jersey, you have Isle of Man, right? There's so many places you can go. So that's part of the journey is for me to find out. I've also got a cousin of mine who's a banker in the Cayman Islands, so that's also an option for me later on should I need that. But that's part of the fun, right? So for now, my company will stay in the UK, but me personally, I'm going to go. So I'll move everything as and when things move forward. I haven't watched the Flintstones in a long time, Jeff, but yeah. Ken Furukawa says, how are you planning to handle the language barrier? Any apps you plan to use? To be honest, places like Malaysia, they speak really good English, as far as I know, or reasonable English. But also, I will try and learn the local languages. And I think sometimes the language barrier doesn't come from speaking to other people. It can come from the internet, because sometimes certain platforms don't allow certain countries. So, for example, PayPal, for example, you can't use that in certain countries. So that's something I need to be careful about. But in terms of language barrier, that's I do know there are some apps. I don't know if you guys know of any. If you do, please say in the chat that there are some apps that automatically immediately translates for you. So you can say hello, and then it translates that into whatever it is. So yeah, that could be cool. Michael says, I think you should bang a flag for every country you stream through. Yeah. I don't think they'll allow me to put any physical flags down, but I can certainly put down an emotional flag, that's for sure. Thanks for our chat, by the way, Michael. Yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, I think so. By the way, Michael, I meant to ask you, how did you find Tao? Was it through an advert on YouTube, or was it through a video on YouTube? If you can tell me if it was through a YouTube in-stream ad, that would be really helpful. Thanks. Yeah, Ken says, I've actually got my company registered in Hong Kong, which is great. So there you go, right? So I've not looked at Hong Kong, but if they've got a really good system there, I'm sure I can go and have a look there as well. It's on the way, right? So I'm also probably going to go to Japan. Do you guys know Adam Payne? There's a marketer there. I'm going to go and have a cup of coffee with him. So I'm literally flying to Japan just for a beer. So there you go. Don't tell the climate change people. Lavar says, no problem there. I'll get there when I earn the right. But for now, most current course is matching mine, so I'm glad I'm on the right track. Good stuff. Good stuff. Cool, Michael. That's great. Yeah, guys. So we'll crack on here. So I can talk you through a few things. Yes, basically, you guys can just work away, do your own thing. I'm just going to sit here and sort of quietly chat away, as it were. But please leave this window open in the background, because while you're working on something, right? So you might be sitting, making notes. You might be sitting here making notes for your next blog post, right? If I'm talking about something that piques your interest, you can have a wee listen. Also, what you can do, guys, have a little think about today, about what you've been doing today, and if you have any questions about today, about emails or user intent, or what does this mean, or what does that mean, why did this happen, and so on, right? You can ask me, and if I can help you, then I'll do what I can to give you a nudge, right? But I can show you a couple of things here, as I'm working on this anyway. So one thing that is proven really time consuming is just planning on where to stay and so on. Okay, because obviously it can be a bit of a pain in the ass with visas and so on, because depending on what country you're going to, you only have sort of 30 days or 90 days on a tourist visa. You can apply for different kinds of visas and so on, but that in itself is a process. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but unfortunately, a lot of government websites where you're applying for visas are really, really terrible. They're so bad. They're very, very hard to navigate and so on. So one thing that I have spent a lot of time on in the last few weeks, which is fun but also quite frustrating, is simply just Googling, where to stay and so on and so forth. Because, for example, here, if I head over to Kuala Lumpur here for a second, and if I search for, if I go in here and if you search for something like co-living spaces or co-working spaces, right? Oops. Right, so you see there's like dozens of co-working spaces, and the city, it's a big city, quite big. So whether this is best or that one's best or this one's best or that one's best, I don't know. And then you have to sit there and you have to go through all the websites. You have to figure out what the pricing are. You have to figure out what they're offering and so on. And for the most part, they all look great, right? But then you start thinking, well, is it very central? Is there things near there? How close is it to the airport and so on? And you kind of start overthinking and kind of, you become, it's that the whole paralysis by analysis, right? So that in itself takes a lot of time. And this actually takes me back to, I remember when I flew around the world about 4 years ago now, when I was meeting all my students. I did sort of 30, 40 flights in the course of a few months. And this is why I went straight to an agent who booked everything for me. I just told them where I need to be, what date, and they booked everything. And they did it in a matter of hours. And it saved me weeks of agonizing frustration. But this is where YouTube comes in handy, because I've been watching a lot of videos here about places like Kuala Lumpur, especially about accommodation, right? And then that helps you pinpoint where the nice condos are and so on. So that's really helped out. But you should keep this in mind if you're thinking of doing anything kind of traveling or anything like that, because it does take a surprising amount of time to just think about where you want to be. Because I've never been to Malaysia. I've been to Thailand before, which is fine. But obviously, when you arrive in a brand new city like this here, if you've committed to booking somewhere for you've rented an apartment for 2 months, right? The last thing you want to do is get stuck in a horrible place for 2 months, right? So I think probably what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go and I'll book like a hotel or something for the first 2 weeks, and then while I'm there, I'm going to go and check out some places and see where I can stay for the next 2-3 months, right? Because that way, I don't want to travel all the time. I want to have a base so I can sit and work and focus. Otherwise, if I'm traveling every single week or every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, it's going to be too much. Because obviously, Tao is my priority, right? I've got meetings, I've got support tickets, I've got stuff going on. I'm developing certain things and so on, right? So that is the main priority. So that will never change. So I need to have somewhere where I can go, sit, work, focus, and also one thing I'll need to do is to test the internet, right? So when I'm going to viewings and seeing places, I need to actually get my phone out and actually do the little speed testing, because I need to know that the internet is what they say. Because some people do unfortunately lie or mislead or whatever. So yeah. Ken says, I'll be curious to see how you handle recording videos. Yeah, no, it's going to be a challenge, that's for sure. But again, that's partly why I'm doing this live here right now, because I'm testing out things. I've just bought this. I bought this screen here. It's like a travel screen you can plug into your laptop, so you can have 2 screens. So that's what I'm looking at here right now. And so far, so good. Because I needed to see how my laptop handles that, because obviously that sucks up a lot of power from a laptop. So I just want to test that. But so far, so good. But the cool thing is, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but they have all these co-working spaces, right? They have, they have offices and so on, and so you can rent an office inside these co-working spaces and so on. And a lot of them look really, really cool. I don't know if it's on here. Um, oops. Yeah, so a lot of them look really, really cool, and yeah, they have fast internet, they have offices and so on. But for the most part, I will probably be working just from my condo wherever I end up, because a lot of them are very, very nice. And so yeah, but that's all good. Um, Kurt says, "Don't forget to forget about the hostels. You'll be able to might mingle with other people and learn more." So I'm probably too old for hostels. I think, to be honest, I'm 38. So hostels, I've done that many times, but and so I know exactly what you mean. But that's the good thing about these co-working spaces is the fact that they have, you go there to work and meet others as well, and they have, networking events and so on, and they have like cool things that you can do there. Also, I don't know if you guys know this, but places like with Airbnb, right? Airbnb, they do experiences as well. I have no idea where that is on the site. Hang on, find this here. So Airbnb, they do experiences. So on Airbnb, you can do all these different things like tours and tastings and cooking classes and all that stuff, right? So I'll definitely be doing that to just get social and meet locals and stuff, and do experience all the stuff that you should experience when you are wherever you are in the world. And also on here, you have various networking events and meetups and so on. And also, one thing that is, for example, basically all over the world, there are continuous conferences, right? I was a bit, my timing was a little bit off because as soon as I announced I was traveling, a marketer I know called Michael, he messaged me straight away saying there was a huge SEO conference in Chiang Mai in November, but unfortunately they've sold out, right? But that event looks incredible, right? So so I'll definitely keep my eye open for conferences all over the place, and that way I can just get on a plane, go there, go to the conference, come back again. And the good thing is because Kuala Lumpur is so well connected. It means that I can use that as a base and then just fly off to wherever for like a weekend, and come back, and yeah, I can just go through that process. So yeah, but yeah, please do let me know, guys, in the chat, like what you're working on, like what you're working on today, what are you doing. Michael, I know that you've been busy. What you've been working on since our call together yesterday. So yeah, so basically, I'm working on some slides here for the simple profit blueprint. It's a new course I'm releasing in a few days. I'll be releasing it in bits, like 1 week at a time, to give myself enough time to create it. And as you will see, if you bought any of my courses in the past, you will always see me talking about simplicity. Okay, so particularly if you're creating courses. So if you're creating courses, then if you at some point you're probably using Google Slides or something for that, because you do need that depending on what you're doing, right? Now, keep it simple, okay? So for now, what I'm doing this here, literally, guys, all I add a copyright text at the bottom here. I add a logo at the top, and that's it. And then I use the default things here. I rarely even change the font, okay? Because nobody cares. And the key here is to understand that the more you add, the longer it takes to edit, the more faffing around there is. The one crucial thing that I see again and again and again and again and again is that people who are creating courses, they overthink it and overcomplicate everything to death, where they will have moving animations and this and that and the other, and they want to use all these things they bought and tried and so on. And it just makes things so much more complicated. For things like images and so on, where I'm using little arrows, I use this, for example, I can show you actually. I use this tool up here. See, in the top right here in my extensions here, I use this tool here called Awesome Screenshots. Here, Awesome Screenshots. So that's what I use for taking pictures and so on. So if I just use one of these features here to take a picture, and then I can actually draw like this here. arrows and so on. I can make them fatter, and I can do all that stuff, right? There. If you search for any kind of screen capture tool, there are literally billions of these tools. I really like this one here because you can do certain things like put on cool arrows and smiley faces and whatever else, right? And you can save it and create a shareable file and so on very very easily. So if I want to share this here, I'll just click on done. Click on upload to get shareable link here, and then I've got a link here I can share with anybody I want here. Boom, like so, or I can download that and so on and so forth, right? So that's what I use for taking screenshots and whatnot. Also, one little trick here for you: if you're ever on a web page here, for example, let's say if I want to take a screenshot of this here. Now, if I took a screenshot of this like so. One problem can be is that this text there is really, really small. And so what you can do is before you take the screenshot is simply to come here, hold down control, and you can zoom in and then take a screenshot. That way everything looks bigger and you don't have to zoom in on the screenshot, because if you zoom in on the screenshot, everything becomes pixelated and it looks terrible. Okay. So that's one little trick there for you. But yeah, so for me here, this year is probably one of the most tedious and slow processes I have for me. Unfortunately, this isn't something I can really outsource. I could, in theory, just write out what I want on the slides and then outsource the rest and get someone to design it and so on. But for me, I've found that it just that takes sometimes even longer because I found that unless you're actually involved in this business, it's very difficult for them to understand certain flow and so on, especially when it comes to taking screenshots and whatnot. I often find that it's just easier and faster just to do it myself, right? But obviously that's something that I can work on, but I don't do enough slides to make it worth my time to train someone and pay them to do that for me, because in terms of the volume of slides I do, it's not really enough to warrant that. Particularly now that I'm not really doing much of sort of live presentations anymore. But in the future, I probably will hire somebody to do this for me, but I'll need to train them up first. So yeah. Cool. So Michael says he's working on content. That's good. Remember what we spoke about, Michael. Okay, keep it simple and plain, and just follow the training inside Tao. Okay, and don't forget to finish the 7-step action plan first before you start creating content and so on. And make sure you follow the training step by step. I know you have a lot of experience, which is great, but if you follow along, then you will avoid any unnecessary mistakes. Okay. Ken says, I'm going to record, but then I had to leave, so I'll work on the outline for a potential bump offer. Cool. I need to actually create a bump offer as well for Tao. How many in the chat do you guys understand what a bump offer is? I can cover that if you want. If you want to know what a bump offer is, just say yes in the chat. Lavor says, gathering my thoughts now that I have a professional email from my domain earlier. That was the last thing for now. I'm continuing to continue the course, the lesson in Google properties and SEO friendly sites. Cool. That's good work, man. Awesome work, Lavor. That's great. Aliyah says, working on a new lead magnet and getting some leads from a YouTube channel, which I created a couple months back. That's great, Aliyah. Glad to hear it. There's a question mark from Michael, so I'm guessing that's referring to the bump offer. Is it? I think so. I can show you what a bump offer is, just in case someone's wondering. A bump offer is often something that people add here. So on the homepage of Tao here, if I click on the checkout button, when someone comes here, you can see there's just the one thing here. But if what you can add here is called a bump offer, where I could put in here saying, if you as an optional extra, if you want to, you can tick this little box, and you can also add in here a series of PDFs or an extra mini course or a workshop or something for $4.99 or $9.99, so it can appear here. So that way they can actually they can bump that if they want to. They can actually click on yes, I want that too as an additional upgrade. It's a very subtle way to have an upgrade without having an upgrade. because obviously, as you guys know, it's very, very annoying. No one likes upsells, right? Upsells are a pain in the ass. But they are unnecessary evil for marketers, because they are part of the process. But having a bump offer is a very subtle way, because it's voluntary. You can click it if you want to. If you don't, that's fine, right? So it's a very subtle and simple way to upsell someone in that way. So that's basically what a bump offer is. A bump offer can appear in different ways, but that is the kind of the general theme of that. And so yeah, I'm really excited, guys, about my traveling and what I'm doing. And also, if anyone is curious, I'm using something called StreamYard, which is really so far really very easy to use. Ironically, I've got many tools, right? So I use a variety of different ones. I would normally use Webinar Jam, but for some reason I couldn't get it to work properly. So the irony is that while I was on chat support at Webinar Jam, I was signing up to StreamYard, and by the time I finished the chat support with Webinar Jam, I'd already signed up to StreamYard, set up the live feed, set up the YouTube listing, and it was done. Okay, so for YouTube lives, I'll probably keep using StreamYard because they're very good. But for webinars, Webinar Jam is really good. Okay. So StreamYard is this site here. I haven't got like an affiliate link or anything, but if you are doing any kind of live streaming, then yeah, I would definitely recommend these guys, because I'm using them right now and they're really good. Actually, I can see here. You can actually see that screen. Let me just quickly change to that window. There we go. This one here. Okay, this is StreamYard. So if you go there, it's well worth having a look at. Yeah, as Ken says there, you can start with a free account, which is really cool. So yeah, just gonna share. There we go. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, and also another thing here that I do is, if you guys haven't got a Canva account yet, I'm definitely recommend getting one. Get the pro version, because I don't know, I honestly can't remember. I don't know how much it costs. I think it's like $6.99 or $9.99 a month. But you get access to so many templates, particularly images and icons, and you get the licenses for them, so you can use them for whatever you want. Okay. So for my slides and so on, for here, for example, I will use, for example, here, right? I will use this here. I'll use Canva to pull in these icons and so on. Okay. So what I'll do is, if I'm here, I can go in here. I can create a new design, have it as a really small file. So I'll go here, for example. I'm going to go back here. So here you can see 98 by 98, or yeah, these ones here, for example. And I can just come here and I can search for an element here. So if I search for hands off, for example, or again, whatever. And then get all the graphics and elements and icons that I need and want here, and they're right here. Beginners tend to quite often go to Google and search in Google for images, and that's really dangerous. And here's why: because if you go to Google and search for images and you think that they are copyright free, some of them aren't. Okay, they're not, because often people will upload images and tick them and say that this is copyright free when it isn't. Okay, so that means that you can quite easily end up downloading images that are not copyright free, and you can get in trouble for that. It's unlikely, but it can happen. Okay, because people do find out. So, for example, here, if I'm doing here, hands off, do no work. So if I search here for cash flow or something, right? Again, boom, put it in there. I'll then go here, download, and I can just choose that one here, download this here, and then just drag it in here, and it's there. Okay. Again, you would change around with the sizes and so on, but it's so simple, so fast, and it makes your life really easy. And you can create, you can make your slides look much more professional really quickly. Okay. Um, so you can see here from my past designs and so on. Obviously, I'm not a graphic designer at all, so these are very, very ad hoc and amateurish. But you can see, they are very relevant and they're very quick and easy to do. And yeah, in that sense, they're really, really cool in that sense to make and to nurture with. So yeah, so it's well worth doing, because these types of images here are very, very, very good at conveying emotion to your audience, right? Now, it's quite common for people to go to something like Pixabay. Okay. Now, Pixabay is fine. Pixabay and Pexels, okay, both these here are totally fine to use. But the problem with Pixabay and Pexels is the fact that they are overused, okay, and the images themselves are they are very, very simplistic and basic, and a lot of them, even though technically they're high quality, but they're not high quality in the intent. Okay, so if I search here for for example, affiliate marketing. Okay, so if I search this here you'll see some standard images here. You can see these are obviously not well designed. They look okay, but they're not great. Same here for Pixabay. If I search for inside Pixabay here, it's same thing. Where yeah, you get some images that look okay, but after you scroll for about 4 seconds, most of them are very, very, very simplistic in nature. Okay, and these here are obviously adverts. Whereas on Canva, if I go here and search for affiliate marketing, right? And if I go to all here, what you get is literally millions of pictures that look fantastic. Okay, and they're all purpose driven. They've all got a reason behind them. Okay, and also here under the graphics, you get all the icons, and the icons again they look fantastic. You can scale them, you can make them big, you can chop them, change them, you can change the color on them. You can actually go in here, you can actually edit them and add gradients and so on and whatever else, right? And so that's why Canva is so powerful for you to level up, because guys, seriously, for the sake of the $10 a month versus looking professional and not, right? It doesn't even compare. Okay, I did several years before I upgraded, and the minute I did, I was like, oh my good god, that was silly, because in my opinion, any graphics I do looks terrible now, and that's with Canva. So now when I go back and look back at what I did, 5-6 years ago, it's just embarrassing, because it looks like a drunk teenager did it, right? But it worked. What I mean? They did the job. But at the end of the day, for the sake of $10 a month, right, it's worth looking just instantly 10 times more professional. And one more tip. One that's again, it comes up again and again and again and again, is don't use gradients. Okay, this is a very outdated thing, but I see it very often because most of my audience inside Tao, most of my audience are older, which means that they have an older design style. They have an older sort of touch towards colors and so on. And do you remember back in the old days of the internet, like late 90s, early noughties? There's a lot of gradients, because obviously graphic design was limited in terms of what you could do. So it was like everything was a gradient of color. Now it just looks outdated. It looks terrible. So whenever you're adding a button or a background or any kind of image, whatever, don't use any gradients unless they're preset for you. Okay, because otherwise they just look like crap. I'm sorry, but they do. They look very outdated. Yeah, so Gary says, used Canva for my first webinar slides. It was great, and they do presentations. Yeah, so you can use Canva as the same as Google Slides. I use Google Slides purely because I've used them for forever. It's what I know. But yeah, you can like Gary said, you can use Canva to create stuff in Canva, and then use Canva as the presentation tool, which saves you more time, right? That's a good tip there. Yeah, exactly, Ken. So yeah. hidden online living. Definitely having a pro version is essential. So yeah, but you guys, have you got any questions, or was there anything that you want to talk about or ask me about, or was there anything that's happened today that you guys are unsure about? Anything that's you've seen or heard about, or anything that you want to ask me in any way? Please do let me know. Just let me know in the chat. It feels very good doing a live. It's funny, I've now done. It must be easily over 200, maybe even 300 or 400 live presentations, either in the form of like this, or as educational workshops for Tao, or sales presentations, or coaching sessions, and like groups and stuff. And it's funny, like even now, before I got on, I can feel my adrenaline going. Like it's really good. So I'll definitely do more of these, because they're a lot of fun to do. Also, if you're doing any kind of video, if you're doing any video of any sort, if you have a YouTube channel, right, then I would urge you, as soon as you possibly can, go and do a live, right? You are going to be absolutely bricking your pants, because it's nerve-wracking, but there's no other way to have such a cost-effective, because it's free, such a cost-effective way to level yourself up as a marketer in a fraction of a millisecond. Because the second you go live, right, and those nerves start popping off, and you feel excited and you go, you'll notice a switch where you immediately just start talking, and you level yourself up as a marketer tenfold in the fraction of a second, because it's such a big jump and a leap. But what you can find is the fact that when I go live like this here, I can just sit here and talk and talk and talk, and I'll have some notes and so on and whatever else. But I find that because I'm live, it's like being pushed in the deep end, right? You'll be okay. You'll splash around a little bit, but you'll suddenly start swimming. And the thing is, if this was a recording where I was recording this for YouTube, I would have stopped and re-recorded this at least 3 or 4 times already. But because it's live, it's just done. And I find myself, it's almost like a little jolt to the system, where when it's live, you just go, and suddenly you flow much better. You suddenly have that little bit of adrenaline, which means that you're sharper, and it means that you're on the offensive, right? So if you've never done a live before, and in the back of your mind, that it is a good tool to use, I would urge you, just literally after this call here, just go live, go, and then sit there and go, hi guys, and literally write down 2 things you want to talk about, and then just talk about them, and then say bye, and then close. No one's going to see it. Okay, no one's going to judge you, because you don't exist. Okay, but by doing it, you are immediately leveling up to a point where there is no course, okay, you can buy that will give you that same experience. Okay. And thinking about it is nowhere. Don't even pretend to assume that thinking about or imagining doing live is the same as doing live. Is nothing like it. Okay, so if you're doing any kind of video, then make sure you do a live. Okay, anyone who's been part of Tao, especially my longer term students, I've been asking so many of them to do a live, and most of them don't, because they're scared. All right. So Richard, Peter, if you're watching, do a live. Okay. Dennis, and everyone, if you're in my coaching group and so on, do a live. Okay. That's a good point. Actually, Gary says YouTube Shorts and no links anymore. Yes, that's the latest news. That YouTube Shorts are now not the links inside YouTube Shorts, they're no longer clickable, which will be good, because that will stop a lot of spammers from just spewing out all the garbage we see on the Shorts. 30-minute marketing, do a live. It's a great rush, especially if you're doing a live sales webinar. That's the next level after doing a normal live. But if you're doing any kind of sales, that's forget cocaine. If you want to do some sales, that's a real buzz, definitely. It doesn't touch anything on cocaine or any kind of drug, alcohol, anything. Paul Keenan, that's a great question, Paul. Paul asks, how do you deal with all the multitasking of reading the chat while still staying focused? I don't know, used to it. To be honest, you get used to it. You get used to it. So right now, I moved my screen here from the second screen here, so now I can see the comments. So while I'm talking, I can see it. It's almost like you scan over it. So again, it comes with practice, because if you have two screens and you have all the tabs there, then you get used to clicking around. What I would recommend is just simply record a few practice sessions where you're just talk about anything, and then just click and drag and drop and click and stuff, because you get used to it. In the beginning, you can stumble and so on, but to be honest, people are much more forgiving than you think. So if you close down something or something crashes, they're okay. I've had webinars where I'm doing like a sales presentation where I'm selling something, right? There's thousands of dollars online, and my computer crashes or my internet dies, right? I've had that before. So, but people still come back. So people are much more forgiving than you think. But it takes practice, that's for sure. To tell you a story, Paul, I did my first webinar presentation back in, I believe it was in August of 2018. And that webinar took me like a week to prepare for, in terms of like creating the slides and so on. And it wasn't even a long webinar. It was like 20 minutes, half an hour. It still took me like a week of preparing, because I was just overthinking, over agonizing. I was so nervous. I remember before I went live, I was like literally sweating, because for me, up until Christmas of 2017, you would never catch me on camera. I didn't do any selfies, nothing. I was so camera shy. I still am. Okay, I still am now. But when I discovered video, I quickly realized, oh yeah, video, it is the future. It is the future of marketing. So I just I grew a pair and sucked it up and just got on with it. But I noticed that when I did my first webinar, that was after making a lot of videos. I was absolutely breaking it. I was really nervous. But as soon as it was done, right, I was so relieved. And then the next one was 1,000 times easier. And then after I'd done like 30, 40, 50 webinars, suddenly the prep time is almost nothing. And you can just you can riff so much more. You can tell stories like this here, right? And you have so much more value to offer. And so it's just a case of just practice, to be honest. But yeah, definitely like Gary says there, two screens is a must. Yeah, you use two screens. Otherwise it gets really complicated. Lavar says, I gain more confidence talking when I get serious about a topic. Yep, absolutely. I tried it when I had to deal with a problem, no webcam, just a mic, and saying what my problem is. Yeah, exactly. So for every time, for every time you record something new, you move past it, you get over it, and so on, right? And yeah, definitely, I would also say use video for everything. Right. Personally, I do. So if I'm sending if I'm contacting a contractor, a plumber, or anything, I'll use video. I'll make a video. I'll make a recording. Say, here's the problem. This is what the problem is. Can you fix this? If I'm contacting even my solicitor, or if I'm contacting a programmer, a developer, a freelancer, most of the time, especially if it's like the first meeting or the first contact, I'll use video. And even like right now, I'm in a few days from now, when I give the keys to my solicitor for this flat, and I'm going to make a video to show everything, so I can say hello to the new owner and show her a few quirks for the flat. And I'll use video, right? And again, that also acts as evidence that everything is fine, everything is as it is, nothing's broken, right? So yeah, definitely use video for it as much as you can. Hidden Online Living says, yeah, I'm looking to getting started on doing lives, my other channel. Yeah, Peter. So do it now. Do it now. After this call, do it now. No excuses, man. There's nothing to wait for. Just go on, man. Start doing live and just do it. 100%. Yeah, Gary says being live becomes real. Definitely, it's a whole different experience for sure. Also, doing lives, guys, it's a lot of fun. It's more value. So, for example, if you look at this right now, right? So, for example, Kurt, Michael, Ken, Gary, Alea, if you're still watching, Peter, that's Hidden Online Living, and Suzanne, and there's another Ken there as well. Now that you're here with me live, right? I'm sure you can recognize that suddenly we are now on a more personal level, right? And so you can see how that kind of value is worth giving, right? It doesn't matter what niche you're in, what you're doing. Having that kind of connection with your audience is well worth it. In fact, that my first webinar that I mentioned, that was the first one ever. Take a guess in the chat. How many people do you think turned up to that webinar, right? Now, I know some of you guys know the answer because I've told that story before, but if you have a guess, those who don't know, have a guess in the chat if you want. How many people do you think turned up to that webinar? Because I can tell you the answer. It was very, 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 very low, right? No, it was not my mum, unfortunately. I couldn't even have invited my mum because my parents. I was living at home with my parents at the time, and my internet connection was only 1 megabyte, and so I couldn't have had 2 people on there if I wanted to. Yeah, Aliyah says 20, Paul says 3. Yeah, I had 2. 2 people turned up, right? 2, and I was dead chuffed with that, right? Mainly because it meant that I was less self-conscious, right? But guess what happened to one of those 2 people who turned up to my very, very first ever webinar? Guess what happened to one out of those 2 people who joined? About, must have been a year and a half later. But a year and a half later, one out of those 2 people joins one of my coaching programs, and they spent at least $3,000 or $4,000 with me. Okay, so that means that my failed first ever webinar, that wasn't a sales presentation. It was pure value, like this here. I was there talking about something. A year and a half later, that person joined my coaching, right? And even now, he still mentions the fact that he was on my first ever webinar, right? So even though immediately in the moment, I made nothing in terms of cash, right? In terms of my experience and leveling myself up as a marketer, I went from 0 to 35 out of 100. And in terms of the long-term value of my customer value per head, it was already skyrocketing. I just didn't know it. Okay. And so that's kind of the point of if you watch any of my training inside Tao, right? It's always the same thing. It's everything you do. There is no such thing as failure. Okay. Everything you do is built on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Your ego will get bruised. You will have hugely embarrassing stuff where you try and sell something and nothing sells, or you do a video that flops, or right now my computer might crash, right? My face might freeze like this, right, for the next 10 minutes, and so on and so on, right? So there's so many things that happen that are hugely embarrassing that you feel you keep reliving in your head over and over again. But as long as you keep going, then your experience compounds and things move forward, and you will be amazed how quickly things grow. Because unfortunately, most beginners, like I did after my first webinar, they don't realize that failure is actually the reason why you succeed in the future. Because everything that you do on that is built on the next and the next and the next, assuming that you stick to one project. Okay, because otherwise nothing moves forward. Okay, so it's so important to understand that. And so yeah, so whenever I see that person's name opening my emails, that he's still opening my emails now. Okay, that's like 5 years ago, 5 years ago, right? So 5 years later, that same guy is still opening my emails, right? And that is literally priceless. And so, so if you've even got a slight hint of a thought of doing a live or sending an email tonight or writing another 100 words on the blog post, just go and do it, okay? Because all those small little things that you're worried about, it's just your fragile sense of self-worth that is keeping you down, nothing else, okay? Yeah, it's so powerful, but it's really hard to get out of your own head, because we're all human, and everyone suffers from certain things, and it's hard to make that kind of connection, right? But it's a daily process. It's a daily battle. So yeah. But yeah, guys, if you've got any more questions or anything you want to talk about, then let me know. I've pretty much covered what I want to talk about. There's one more thing I can show you that I'm quite excited about. That's coming soon. So in a few weeks from now, I will be doing a bit of a shake-up inside Tao in terms of the layout and the training. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be reshooting a quite large chunk of the 7-step action plan. Now, there's nothing to worry about. You don't need to redo anything. Everything will be the same, other than I'm adding a lot more valuable lessons in terms of perspective and mindset and so on. And I'm reshooting certain things to make things clearer, because obviously I do get a lot of questions and concerns and problems, and so I use that to formulate better and better and better tutorials, right? And also things change, right? Because obviously, I'm constantly updating these to keep on top of buttons moving and options changing and SEO changes and algorithm changes and so on. But I've got quite a big update coming for the 7-step action plan to make things easier, faster, and for everyone to move forward. And I've got a brand new kind of boot camp coming as well for Tao to elaborate more on exactly how you make money, because people often think that up until now I've been sort of marketing Tao as an affiliate marketing training, but it's not just that. It's so much more, because you can make money with AdSense. You can make money with the YouTube partnership program in terms of having the membership and so on. You can get donations and sponsorships. People can pay you money while they're watching lives and while they're watching videos. You can earn sponsored videos. Companies can pay you to make videos or pay you to write blog posts. You can earn money on Facebook, on the Facebook video feed. You can earn AdSense there as well, right? And so on and so on and so on. So I want to incorporate a lot more of that inside Tao. I already have some in there, but I want to make it more focused on sort of the money-making part in terms of what the possibilities are, right? Because that's the beauty of doing what we do is a beautiful thing, because all the skill sets you have and learning you can apply to so many different ways of making money online. In fact, it becomes a bit of a curse, because every single day I see 10 new ideas, I would go, oh my God, that'd be a great business, right? In fact, for example, with me researching, right, this trip, I'm coming across so many terrible, awful, horrendous websites. So when I'm on here and I'm going to like Bulgaria or whatever, and I'm searching for estate agents, or I'm searching for accountants, or I'm searching for co-working spaces and so on, right? When I find websites, so many of them are just absolutely, excuse my French, but they're dog shit, right? And so immediately my entrepreneurial mind is like, oh my God, if I went there, I could speak to them and say, hey, look, your site is unoptimized. I can make it better for you. I can charge you £1,000, right? $1,000, right? I can do it in 4 days. Immediately my mind is just rolling off 10 new ideas for businesses, right? Because wherever you go, anywhere in the world, there's business everywhere. And so whatever you're learning inside Tao, or whatever you're learning on a daily basis in your business, you can apply it to everything you do anywhere. And it becomes a real addiction at certain points, because you start seeing it. In fact, just yesterday I was in town. I was looking for some merino wool, because apparently that's very good in hot climates, I've been told. And there's one guy I asked like 4 or 5 different shops, and nobody had them. And finally, the last guy I spoke to, he was very happy to share with me that he was like, "Oh, no, you can't. Merino wool, you can't get that here now, because we can't get it anymore. It's so hard to get. The Italians buy all the merino wool, blah, 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 blah." And again, my first instinct was, I can find a way to import merino wool straight from New Zealand, right? So it's like my brain is just always business. That's all things about. Because I remember when I was in Thailand about 10 years ago with my ex-girlfriend, going to these wholesalers markets in Thailand, where you can buy containers of stuff, whether it's flip-flops or t-shirts or mobile phones or pens, glasses, microphones, whatever. You can buy pallets and like shipping containers of it for so cheap, and you can send it to the UK. And again, I was there looking at all the prices and stuff, and my mind was just going mental. It's a good thing my ex-girlfriend was there. Otherwise, I would have spent a lot of money. So once you start seeing stuff, you can't unsee it, which is a curse and a gift. So Lavar says 12 years and 9 months of a lot of failures and still pushing forward toward success. Yep, that's it. Last thing, Lavar, success doesn't come, it doesn't end. So right now, I started this online thing back in 2011, 2012. As far as I'm concerned, I'm still not succeeding. I'm still just learning, moving forward. Because it doesn't matter where you get to, there's always another level. So just keep working along and keep learning and keep moving forward, and you'll keep growing. And there's always a need, right? Exactly. So yeah, guys, cool. Okay, so what I was thinking of doing, guys, have you guys all got stuff to work on? Have you got things to do? Because I'm quite tempted to just leave this feed running, and because I'm going to do about an hour or so of work, or half an hour. I was tempted just to leave this feed running, and you guys can just leave it open and just keep working on your business and doing what you're doing. If you have any questions and so on, you can fire on, and anyone who is coming on to this feed late can then jump in as well. Because what I'm thinking is quite fun to do this on a regular basis, because it means that if you know the format, so let's say for argument's sake, in 2 weeks from now, if Kurt or Lavar or Suzanne or whoever, or Ali, hey Ali, if you come on here late, then if you already know the format, then you can just jump on and ask questions and say hey and stuff, and we can have this as a weekly or a monthly thing where you guys can come on and just shoot the breeze, because like I said before, doing this online thing it is a very lonely process, and the chances are your family and friends don't understand what you're doing and they don't really care. And I think for most people, having just even a hint of a connection with somebody who understands is enough to help them overcome that day, that hurdle, that one problem they had that week. And so that's kind of the idea. The idea behind doing this kind of session here. So what I was thinking was for me just to kind of mute myself, as it were, and I can just start working on myself, because I need to do some work, and you guys can do the same. Leave the window open, and if you have any questions, you can just pop it in. You can pop it in. You can pop it in the chat, and I'll see it in the corner of my eye, and I'll hop on, and I'll just answer that real quick. And yeah, so Ali says, I just joined the stream. Can you say what this is about? To be honest, Ali, it's probably easier for you just to go back and rewatch from the start. So you can come back in a few hours and rewatch from the start. Saves people who are here hearing the same thing again and again and again. long story short, Ali, it's no. You know what? If you go back and watch it from the start, it'll be much easier for you. Um, yeah, Ali, that'd be great, man. That'd be great. Thanks for subscribing. And yeah, guys, please subscribe and ring the bell icon, right? Definitely do that. 30-minute marketing says, did the links on your YouTube channel homepage change yet? Mine updated. I have no idea. I haven't looked. What links have changed? Do you know? I haven't looked, to be honest. I can have a quick look right now. Let's see. What links are supposed to have changed? Not sure. The social media icons. Oh, do you mean the bit where it says it's got a link on underneath your profile picture? That's changed, yeah. Cool. Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and mute my microphone. I also need to go for a quick pee, so I'm gonna go and come back. Okay, but yeah, just leave the window open, guys, and just keep working. If you have any questions, also on a practical level, this will be a good what's it called? Instigator. It'll be a good starting point. It'll be a good sparking point. It'll be a good time for you to look for a reason to find a question. Okay. So if you are currently working on something, you've probably forgotten that you had a question about it. So if you right now use this as a window of, okay, for the next half an hour, I'm going to shift my focus. I'm going to put my phone down. I'm going to stop watching Netflix. I'm going to just focus on this thing here. And then immediately you go, oh my God, yeah, that thing there. I was going to ask about this and I need to help with that and so on, right? Because that way I can help you out. So Paul says, what's your reason for moving from the UK? Is it hard to do business in the UK? Or is it the case that you need to try new locations to improve content? That's a great question, Paul. It's a combination of everything, really. So when it comes to the UK, I've got a limited company, and that pays 20% corporation tax, which is fine. But then when I pay myself in the form of a salary or dividends from that, I get taxed again, okay, as much as sort of 35%. And if I add in all the other stuff of inflation, cost of living, interest rates, and so on, it's just got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm having to work harder and harder for less and less and less. For me, it's like I'm not really interested in scaling my business to become like a million dollar company, because I'm not really interested in being that big, because I know that I can be very, 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 very happy with $1 million a year, which is way more than I ever need, right? And so I'm going where I'm going to be treated better, so I can live the life I want to and choose to, instead of the life I need to do just to pay the bills and just to kind of survive, as it were. Because the UK tax system, it's okay, but it doesn't really inspire growth. It doesn't really inspire you to want to work more. And also to improve my content, because when it comes to traveling and doing this online thing, obviously, if I am in an exotic location, it's certainly more, I can use that. If I am traveling all the time, then going to conferences, meeting other marketers, expanding my network, doing interviews, and you're just having good connections and making sort of marketing friends becomes way, 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 way easier. Also, there's a benefit of having a certain sense of personal freedom, where if something comes up where I need to go somewhere, or if I want to go somewhere, I can just go, and I can make that part of my content creation process, right? Um, so yeah, there's a lot of reasons for it, but and you know, business opportunities, you know, investing in certain things, you know, for example, you know, if you search for anything to do with investing in real estate or business or properties, whatever, right, anywhere, you see a lot of interesting things. They go, oh, that looks like a really good opportunity. But unfortunately, obviously, the average person who works 9 to 5, who has a business, they can't fly to wherever, you know, to an island on Thailand, or they can't just fly down to the east coast of Africa, an African nation, to have a look at an opportunity, because they can't, because they're stuck. Whereas if you're doing what I do, then I can just go. And so that in itself opened up 50 new doors for me, where I'll have opportunities that others just don't have, because they haven't got that freedom. So there's a long list of reasons for it, to be honest, Paul. Also, you know, it's a bit of a change. You know, I've been in Scotland now for the better part of 22, 23 years. And I don't know if you've ever, I don't know, I'm not sure where you live, Paul, but you know, Scotland is beautiful, it's great, but it's dark, it's gloomy, it rains a lot. And you know, the thought of working not on the beach, but close by a beach, or you know, in a more exotic location, you know, it does sound you know, a lot better. And you know, I have done it to a certain degree before, so I know how freeing it is to be somewhere where you love being there and working online and making money. You know, it's a great combination, right? So yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of a live stream. It's like a study group. Yeah, exactly, definitely. Yeah, it beats working alone, right? And Kurt says, yeah, you're creating a community of like-minded marketers. Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea. Yeah, and also, you know, because obviously this one here today, I literally just decided like 3 hours ago to do it, right? So this morning, this wasn't planned, but it's something I've been thinking about for a while. And because I got this new second monitor, and I just got my laptop, and I'm leaving, you know, in 4 days, I was like, oh, you know what? I better just test this just to make sure, just in case I need something else or something else happens, because that way I've got time to buy it before I go. And so that kind of spurred me on to get this done. And obviously later on, you know, in next week or the week after or a month after, there will be more and more people on the live stream, which is always more fun because there's more questions, more ideas, more input, and so on. And also that means I can do more elaborate things. And I saw someone mention here earlier about something. Hang on, I'm just going to find it and bring it up on the screen. Yeah, so Ken says, when is the Tau conference? Yeah. So that's something I've been talking about for years to do, to have a little Tau conference, because that would be really, really cool. We're not quite there yet to be able to do it, but it will come one day. It'll be a very small personal event, but having some kind of Tau conference will be a lot of fun to do in person, right? Yes, Paul says, will internet connection be an issue? Most likely. As you guys are probably aware, you know, the classic thing is, you know, hotel internet connections. I don't know why, especially now after all this time. Even when I stay in, I remember for New Year's, I was in Amsterdam with my ex-girlfriend, and even in like a 4.5-star hotel, the internet connection is just garbage. Why that is, I have no idea. I've yet to stay any hotel where the connections are any good. But I've got my phone. I can hotspot my phone. Also, the good thing now is that every single city, everywhere, has co-working spaces where they do have good internet. And one good thing about places like Malaysia and Thailand is that they do have really, really, really good internet in terms of like 5G and so on. And so I think in most cases, it won't be an issue. It will just be a bit different from what I'm used to. So it should be okay. So that's why I'll be going to. So when I'm going to Kuala Lumpur, I'm not staying in a hotel. I'm renting a condo, like I'm renting an apartment. So I've got my own internet. So that way I've got I'll have the usual kind of 200 plus megabytes, and I'll be keeping my sort of more rural traveling to a minimum, because obviously I need internet, right? So yeah. The only time haven't got internet is here in Arkansas. Yeah, no, I'll definitely be. If I come and visit you, Gary, I'll need to probably buy some kind of satellite dish and bring it with me or something. Not sure how to do that, but I could co-work with you in your office, Gary. We can work from your office, huh? That could be a good day. So yeah. But anyway, what I'll do now, I'm going to go for a quick pee, and I'll be back, and I'll leave this window open. Okay, so fire away any chats and so on in the chat there. If you have any questions, fire away. If you want to say hello to each other, fire away. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Okay, and ring the bell icon. Yeah, so yeah, I'll be back in 30 seconds, guys. And we'll keep. I'm going to be working for about another half an hour or an hour or so. I've got lots of research and certain things to do before traveling. Yeah, that's good to hear, Aliyah. That's good to hear. That's what I've heard from everyone anywhere I've been reading about Malaysia and Thailand is that yeah, is that the internet is decent, which is a relief. Okay, so I'm going to start working on my slides. Okay, so yeah, guys, just let's get some work done, and any questions, let me know. Okay. One thing you can do, guys, is to hold yourself accountable as well. If you're watching and if you're working, then tell me, write in the chat right now what you're working on. That way, you're more likely to actually follow through with it and actually do it. Okay. So this is quite cool, guys. I'm just I'm looking for a co-working space in Sofia, which is the capital of Bulgaria, and so you can see the kind of places I'll be going to work and stuff. So it's quite cool. You can see here. So this one called networking, right in the center, and it's basically a networking, co-living, networking, events place for nomads who want to work there. But then if you go to the pricing and so on, they got all these different types, right? You got all the different types of offices and purposes and so on. But you can see here, if I just go to this one, which is quite cool. So you can use their video equipment. You've got co-living options as well. You can register your company there. And so, yeah, it's quite free coffee. That's always good. Free beer. Woohoo. But you can see it's only €179 a month. That's very, very cheap when you consider what you're getting. But that's obviously just a hot desk. I'm sure if you want to have a private office or a meeting room for a few hours, that will cost you a bit more. But even so, there you go, private office. So it's like, yeah. So there's loads of these in every single place you go. And these kind of guys here, you can see if I go to the bottom here. Where was it? They have offices here. You can see they've got offices all over the world, right? So not sure where that is, but yes, you can see they got offices. So it looks like that's in Bangkok or somewhere, but you can see all over Europe, right? In America as well. So with these kind of things, so you can be a member and then automatically have membership to all the places. So you can travel to all the different places and have an office there waiting for you, ready, right? Which is really, really cool. So unfortunately, these are widespread. So every city has 3, 4, 5, if not like 2, 3 dozen of these. So it's very hard to choose which one to go for, because they all look really, really cool, really, really fun. And they've all got really good reviews. So I probably just have to just pick one out of a hat and just go with one and see how it goes. Yeah, Paul. It'll be a monthly or an hourly rate, depending on what you want it for. But again, this kind of thing here in terms of cost, right? I wanted to join one of these co-working spaces here in Edinburgh, right? Just before the pandemic, and for me to rent one office, right? That was literally about a quarter of the size of my room here, right? They want to charge me like £800 a month, which is like basically $1,000 a month for a teeny, tiny little office with glass walls, so everyone can see what I was doing and so on. And that was one of the better ones. But whereas here is like 150 or 200 pounds a month, so the costs are drastically different, right? Which does make a difference when it comes down to the bottom line. So yeah. Anyway, back to work. Hey, Mike. How you doing, buddy? Mike, you'll need to watch the live stream from the start when I end things. That way you can find out what I was talking about earlier in the stream. Okay. Hey, man. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. By the way, guys, would you like to see who I'm using for my virtual post box? I can show you the company I'm using. Actually, really cool. So I've now got a business address in London, which is quite cool. So the company I'm using is called, it's the UK Postbox. So what I did was I did some research, and there's so many different ways of doing this. You got all kinds of virtual offices, and you got the co-working spaces and so on. But this one here has got lots of good reviews, and it seems to be pretty good. And basically, what happens is when you join, you get an address. You choose wherever you want the address to be, and then when you get a letter in the post that comes to that address, they scan it and they show you what it is, and then you can choose to forward it, to shred it, or you can keep it there. And also things like parcels, and you can send stuff there. So if I'm in Thailand or in wherever, and I want to buy something in the UK, I can send it to that address, and they can keep it or forward that to somebody else or somewhere else. Okay, so that's quite cool. So yeah, so I thought I'd just show that to you. And yeah, back to work. Paul asks, yes, I will be liable of taxes. So my company stays in the UK. So my company will still keep paying taxes in the UK. But for me personally, because I'll be living in a cheaper place, means that I'll be living under the threshold. So for me personally, I can easily live I can live on less than about what, $15,000 a year, which means personally I'll pay no tax, but my business pay tax, and all the excess cash will just stay in the company in the UK until I find somewhere else and I move that there. I'm sure there will be some kind of you know closing down fees or transfer fees or whatever, but that'll be a fraction of anything else. So yeah, so I'll definitely be liable for tax, but yeah, it all works in terms of companies versus personal tax. Yeah, Trustpilot. They're a huge company, multi-billion dollar company. So it's well worth getting an account on that. Hey Ron, how you doing, buddy? And for anybody who likes to stay organized, I cannot recommend enough to get one of these weekly planners, because you can write stuff down hour by hour and day by day. It's quite big, but it's really good for just always having a good glance at where you are and what your tasks are. So on this thing here, I will put down all my micro tasks, whether it's check email, check support, or whatever, and have this meeting and so on. Because that way, also it feels very good to go to check it off, and you can do it hour by hour. It means that your day becomes really. I found that the minute I started using this, I became much more focused, and I felt less overwhelmed by bigger tasks. Because what I can do is I can actually, let's say I've got a big task to do, I can write down the big task up here, and then I can break it down into micro tasks along the way. And that way I can plan one big thing into 1 week, and it suddenly it doesn't seem so big. Also makes it a lot easier because that means that after one day, I can see how productive I've been. And it means that I can see the next few days, and I know that it's okay. I will finish in time. Otherwise, you end up feeling quite sort of panicky and flustered about feeling overwhelmed, right? So yeah. But anyway, yeah, back to work. Cool, guys. Well, I'm gonna head off now because it's been 2 hours, and it's getting late here. It's about 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening. But yeah. So thank you for hanging out, guys. Thank you for being here, and keep working on your businesses. And what we'll do is I'll schedule a few more of these going into the future, and I can have different talking points and stuff, and keep that in mind, right? So in going forward, if you have questions, write them down so that when we do come on these kind of calls here, you have them ready and you know what to ask and so on. Okay. And also don't forget to, if you do see anybody else in the group every single time, make sure you connect with each other and also connect inside the community of Tao as well. Yeah, so all I can say, guys, is thanks for hanging out, and just keep working, keep pushing forward. Don't forget, you're not alone, okay? And most importantly, all those feelings you have of negativity and doubt and self-pity and worry, concern, and whatever else, right? Imposter syndrome, all those things, they're just in your head, okay? It's only normal. Everyone feels the same way. Everyone has doubts. But as long as you keep at it, keep showing up, keep coming back, and keep chipping away day by day, then you will start seeing tangible results in your business as time passes. Okay. So guys, all I can say is thank you, and yeah, I'll see you inside the community. Okay. Cheers.